I'd like to welcome everybody this evening to the September 14th special called meeting of the Hopkinsville Committee of the Whole. Calling this meeting to order, I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Francis. Here. Councilmember Smiley.
Here.
Councilmember Marsh.
Here.
Councilmember Crabtree.
Here.
Councilmember Craig.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Wilcox.
Here.
Councilmember Meek.
Here on time.
Councilmember Limburger.
Here.
Councilmember Keel.
Still here.
Councilmember Bell.
Here.
And Councilmember Handy.
Present.
And we have a quorum.
Thank you. Everyone that's able, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I believe everybody had the minutes from the last meeting in your packet. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion. Second.
Got Marsh and Lineberger. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. We're going to roll right into administrative matters. I believe I'm going to call on Mr. Carter Hendricks with the Southwestern Kentucky Economic Development Council for a brief update. Mr.
We'll
Hendricks.
let your computers get caught up with, yeah, brief. I heard you, Councilman Martin. I'm going to do my
I was gonna
level
try to slide
best.
that in, Carter. I'm sorry.
Was that 1 minute? You want the whole update, Mayor, in 1 minute? You guys are really testing me. I can't get that many words in 60 seconds, but I'll do my best. Everybody seeing the
I'd like
screen?
to time you and see how many you can get.
Everybody seeing the screen? We're wasting some of it right now. All right, so I'm glad to be here with you this
We
evening.
can't see the
Our
screen,
screens
Carter.
are down.
We have no screen.
I'll give it a second to catch up with you then. This is not counting against me, right?
No.
Yeah, they see it great. It's a good looking PowerPoint, right, audience? It looks good.
Just turn the TV around.
Still nothing yet. It seems like a common thing here. I've never had good luck with this.
I got nothing.
I mean,
We're still good out here, yeah.
nobody.
I couldn't tell you.
We don't have
No,
anything.
we're dead across the board.
We're up here and you're up there. Yeah.
I think Matthew unplugged it.
Daryl, we're working over here. So if anybody will sit over here.
Carter, for once, we can't blame you.
It seems to be a trend when I come here with the
Speechless.
PowerPoint, to be honest.
Very disheartening right now.
I'll just bring flip charts next time and we'll avoid it all. Mr. Chairman, I can begin some of this until it catches up with you, if that's what you want me to do. I
I'm
don't
gonna
want
ask
to,
purview of the council. If y'all want them to go ahead and start before it comes up, we can do that.
I don't want to delay you. Then what I can do is send this out electronically to you afterwards as
That would be
well.
great.
There are a few slides that are for the closed session. I'll have to remove those. That's why it wasn't in
Yeah.
advance. But okay.
That's fine.
Well, thank you all for letting me come this afternoon. And again, now mine is stuck here, so I'm just going to use my cheat sheet as well. I want to give you some quick highlights on the state of our economy here in Hopkinsville and Christian County. And this is based on a third-party source that did a report for the Tennessee Valley Authority called Lightcast. That's the primary source of a lot of this information. Now, some of this is information that we've shared through announcements, through the Cabinet for Economic Development and other entities. Are we good?
Yes.
Everybody seeing that?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Now I got to make sure I'm not advancing here though, unfortunately. So see how this works. One thing at a time, baby steps right now. So the slides aren't advancing now. Here. Gotcha.
Here you go, huh? That should be right here.
Oh, we got it. Thank you, sir. So I want to give you some regional direction and highlights of the county information based on that third-party vendor. First thing I want to tell you is, of course, this is based on just information that's been announced. But I want you to take a second to review this screen with me because each of you have played an instrumental role in helping to make many of these announcements and these projects take place. Not all of these are in Christian County, but I'll explain the couple that are not in Christian County and why they're highlighted nonetheless. But as you can see, Ascend Elements would be a key highlight over the last few months of activity. If you haven't been out to their site to see it, it is certainly truly a sight to behold. A $1 billion investment that's underway, 450 jobs that will be created when they are fully operational early in 2025. Those jobs are not online completely yet, although they've hired some people. You can expect over the next 12 to 15 months that Ascend Elements will be aggressively hiring for those positions. And again, that's a $1 billion capital investment. Toyota Bashuku, you just approved the incentives, of course, has been announced. And excitingly, we'll have a groundbreaking announcement ceremony officially in early October that you'll all be invited to. But that's another 157 jobs and $225 million in capital investment. I think they actually said up to $230 million in the official incentive application. You may have noticed the gentleman that was sitting with me as we sat through the initial special called city council meeting. That was Mr. Jordan Gigi. He is with the HR program, the HR department for Toyota Bashuku, and he's actually already actively in market trying to identify and begin that process. So they're very excited to be working with the city and to be locating here in Hopkinsville. Novellis. If you haven't seen the Novellis campus in Guthrie, Kentucky, I would certainly encourage you to check it out. You might remember they initially announced a $350 million investment and 160 jobs back in 2017. Recently, back in January of 2022, they announced another, January of 2022, they announced another 140 jobs and $350 million investment. So you're thinking, well, that's South Todd County, that's Guthrie, what's that got to do with us? Roughly 15 to 20% of the Novellis workforce are Christian County residents, with many of those being Hopkinsville residents. And so even though it's in the neighboring county, undoubtedly it's having a positive impact on Christian County as well. And I saw Councilmember Smiley, he sees that campus with pretty consistency. It's pretty impressive out there. I mean, a $700 million investment in Guthrie was more total evaluation than they had on the record before this took place. So this is truly transforming South Todd County in this region. White Drive Products, you might remember back this past January, announced another 100-job expansion, $16 million in capital investment. Delavan Ag Pumps back last October announced 30 jobs and a $10 million investment in Elkton. Load Covering Solutions down in Cadiz announced about 15 months ago 30 jobs and $10 million. As a result of these announcements and this activity, it's also helped to leverage and generate additional infrastructure support through grants that you've received and that others have received, including grants to help at Commerce Park 2 here in Christian County for the road and rail projects. Total, those combined grants are just about $25 million. There's an additional $50 million worth of work being done at Commerce Park 2 and other sites. So collectively, in the last 18 months, there have been announced and underway $1.8 billion of direct capital projects associated with this slide alone. This doesn't include any other activity that's in the market. This is just represented by these slides and these projects. And that's impact that you'll be feeling immediately, but certainly over the next 12, 24, 36, 48, 60 months as these operations become operational and all of these folks are hired and these projects are complete. So Lightcast has done a 5-year projection based on what they've been seeing in the past, and what they're showing is that as you look to the next 5 years, Christian County is showing strong net new job growth as a projection. And I want to be clear about projections. They're just forecasts. They can be wrong. We can outperform them or we can underperform them. We would believe that we're more bullish on the idea of manufacturing jobs over the next 5 years, but this is net new jobs. So total net new jobs showing roughly 1,500 total in Christian County and just under 2,000 total for southwestern Kentucky. And again, we think it's probably even a more promising future for manufacturing. This is a net job perspective. Also looking at the population trend, Lightcast is seeing some good targets and good numbers coming in. And so they're projecting Christian County to grow by just under 2,400 residents over the next 5 years. They've shown that we've grown by just over 1,700 in the previous 5 years. So that's good to see population growth. It's the key fuel to the economy for small business development, and it's fuel to the economy for workforce development. So being able to show a population trend that's to the positive is certainly a positive sign for all of us in this room. And if they're correct, we'll be well over 101,000 people by the year 2028. Also want to note that as you look at the regional gross product, the manufacturing gross regional product is up to over $900 million now and is growing. $800 million of that is in Christian County, where, as you can see, 89% of the 3 counties' gross manufacturing regional project is right here in Christian County. So certainly, I would hope that the council and our fiscal court will continue to see value of why you invest in economic development and specifically in industrial recruitment and manufacturing. Over $900 million. Now, I know we just surpassed $1 billion in occupational payroll. We're getting real close to that $1 billion in Christian County in manufacturing gross products. So that's another new target that we have in sight. The other thing that Lightcast shared with us is what's available in our workforce. In other words, how many people are currently of workforce age that are not participating in the workforce. And right now, when we look at Southwest Kentucky, there's just under 30,000 workers that are not participating in the workforce that could be participating in the workforce. That may sound like a large number. That puts us at about 45% on average of the workforce not participating, or 55% on average that is participating. That number needs to improve. I think we would all agree with that. But the good news is there's 30,000, just under 30,000, just at 20,000 in Christian County. So when we're talking to a company, when we're recruiting an industry, we're able to point to this as potential talent. This is part of the workforce that we've got to get back into the workforce through efforts like child care, transportation, and the tax policies that are making it more attractive to work in Kentucky. So again, I'll use this to show this is the talent potential in Southwest Kentucky. And that's just looking at our 3 counties. Doesn't take into consideration the Noun County labor shed that we work with. So quick highlights. Christian County's population increased by 2.5% in 2017, over 73,000 according to Lightcast. Jobs grew by 1,850 since 2017. Jobs are up, population is up. The county's labor force participation rate increased from 54.8 to 55.5, and we still need to go more. We need to be more like 60, 62% or better. Christian County has more millennials on average than an average county our size, has twice the number of veterans than an average county our size. That's pretty cool. That's something we should think is pretty cool. We're young, we're diverse, and we know how to serve this country. And our violent crime rate at 2.1 is considerably lower than the national average. And I think that's something to be reminded. Does that mean that we're happy with it? No. 1 is too many. But the idea that we're unsafe is not true. We're a safe community, especially as compared to the national average. And I know that's really to the testament of those public safety heroes that are out there each and every day, making sure they work hard to keep us safe. So violent crime rate considerably lower than the national average. Population trend, I won't repeat that to you, but this is what it looks like on a chart. Anytime you see it going to the right direction, going positive, that's a good sign. We want to see that projection become a reality. Job trend, positive trend. Labor force trend, positive trend. Unemployment rate, properly downward negative positive trend. So we see opportunities for Christian County and Hopkinsville. Population growth, continued job growth. That's how we'll continue to help support small business, retail, restaurant, and entertainment development. And that is certainly part of what we want to do through the Economic Development Council, is create the rising tide that literally lifts all ships and gives them the opportunity to take advantage of these truly big economic announcements. So from a population perspective, I want to make sure you're reminded, we think there's good news on the horizon as the state is committed to no income tax. That's going to continue to be a positive for our region. I would encourage each one of you, every chance you get, remind anyone that'll listen, we're on our way to 4% January 1, and the state will continue to make progress as the metrics allow them to. But we're more competitive today than we were 5 years ago, and I believe we're seeing good positive results of some northern migration that's starting to occur. We're seeing the projection of population growth. We're seeing that we could attract from Davidson and surrounding military counties. We're seeing that we can target specific military installations like Fort Liberty, Fort Hood, Fort Liberty's Fort Bragg, Fort Hood, Fort Bliss, Fort Riley, Fort Lewis, and many more. And these came through in that report that was shared with us. So we're not just picking these. We looked at the report and we identified some of the installations that seem to be sending us the most troops and the most potential. Jobs are going to continue to increase in Christian County, looking at 1,500 net new jobs as a forecast. We think we can outpace that. Manufacturing wages continue to rise. We're at over $75,000 when including benefits on average. That's good wages in our region. It's good wages for those who make manufacturing a career. Manufacturing is now the second largest industry sector with nearly 7,500 jobs at over $800 million in the GRP. Bottom line, we see the opportunities in the military, financial operation, production, and of course with the companies that we continue to help recruit. Very quickly, want to highlight your bang for your buck. This is our mission here as an organization. I won't read that for you. I know that you guys have seen that before. Quite simply, it's to help recruit and create new jobs and new capital investment so that we have a better quality of life for all. That's as simple as it can be said. This year's funding is just at $650,000. You can see the sources of revenue there, fairly well diversified at this point. We really are. We're very fortunate to have a good blend of public and private support. And if you compared this to about 5 years ago, it's actually been shifting more towards the private support from the public support. And so very well diversified. Certainly appreciate the city's continued support. These are the goals for 2025 that have been set. 5,000 new jobs. We're about 2,000 on our way towards that goal. $3 billion in new investment. We're about $2 billion on that way towards that goal. And over $250 million in new payroll. I haven't yet done that number to see how close we are, but I know that you celebrated $1 billion in occupational payroll, so we think some of that's helping out. And ultimately, to create more opportunity for all. So again, I mentioned the 5,000 jobs in investment. There's some of the progress. 10 industry expansions and 5 new announcements in Hopkinsville and Christian County since 2020. 7 expansions, 3 new industries. Total impact, 10 announcements, 1,200 jobs, $1.4 billion from just those announcements since 2020. So thank you for your continued support. Hopefully you're seeing some bang for the buck. And then in the region, 3 additional expansions, 2 additional new industries for 5 additional announcements for over 325 new jobs and $410 million. So again, in Southwest Kentucky since 2020, we're looking at significant expansions and announcements of new industries. 80% of those new jobs created have been in Christian County, 80%. 78% of the new investment since 2020 has been in Christian County. There's a consistency there, and the reason is you have the infrastructure, you certainly have the workforce, and you've invested in yourself and given these companies an opportunity to say yes and to come be a part of this outstanding community. Total regional impact, as I said, $1.8 billion in new direct investment, $8.1 billion in indirect total impact. What has it meant? Christian County last year ranked amongst the state leaders in new permits for business. The city surpassed $1 billion in equivalent payroll, and the Tourism Commission has announced once again a record year in transit room collection. Now, the batter capital of the world, the festivals, the work of Parks and Recreation, all of that is important. Sports tournaments, that's all adding to this. The reason I acknowledge it here, so are the contractors and the subcontractors who are working on these jobs, who are staying in the hotels and eating at the restaurants. This all goes together. And the point simply is you are in uncharted, historic territory when it comes to revenue and economic impact. And it's thanks to the hard work, not necessarily of the SWK EDC. We like to think we play a role in it, but it's you. It's the community. It's the county. It's the community college. It's the mayor. It's the judge. It's all of the parties involved working together. That's the only way you win. So we remain hungry to win. Those of you that have been in coaching, I know many of you in front of me have. We remain hungry to win, but I share this particular slide and that particular caption because I think it really captures the spirit of how we have to maintain our momentum. You can create a long line of people who say they're hungry to win. It is really hard to get a line of people who are willing to do what it takes to win. So thankfully, you guys have continued making the right decisions along with our industrial foundation in the county and many others to invest in yourself, to prepare the workforce, to prepare a community so that when we have the opportunity to compete, we are much more likely to win. And that's what we try to do each and every chance we're given the opportunity to represent you. On deck, we've got a send element. I like to call that photo on the left of your screen the $1 billion photo. That's what $1 billion of initial investment looks like in South Christian County. And then Soweto Bashuku site, which actually doesn't look anything like that now. It looks like it's ready to start construction, and they're moving along pretty aggressively. I know they're ready to break ground officially and get that building up and out of the ground. But those are your 2 next sites. That's where the next big wave is coming because their investment and their jobs haven't really hit the market yet. And then we'll keep trying to hit home runs with you and on your behalf with our big sites like Commerce Park 2, our fast sites like the Spec Building, and because of our ready workforce. Thank you guys for your attention. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you very much. And Crabtree.
Carter, you and your bunch, y'all have done a phenomenal job working with the city and all. I mean, your presentation shows that I'm seeing a little bit of activity on Rural King, and I'm seeing a lot of Facebook stuff on Rural King. What's
What
the
do I
word
know?
on Rural King?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I saw Halloween Spirit. I do see that sign and evidence that that's going in the old Boardman's. But I'll be very candid and honest. The last time I reached out to my contact at Rural King, I have not gotten a reply back to that particular email. So that was about 4 weeks ago. So I'm going to reach back out here pretty soon because I saw the Halloween Spirit. And then I've also seen some of the chatter about Rural King started its renovation internal, but I haven't heard that directly from them. So I certainly don't want to put words in their mouth, but I'm going to reach back out. The last time I got a response was about 2 months ago. About every 4 weeks, I've tried to harass them a little bit. Don't mean that in a negative way, but I have. So about 2 months ago, I got a response back simply that they thought things would begin soon. So soon to me and soon to them might be different. But at least we see that the Gordman's Inn does have something happening in it. And they did purchase the building, so we do know that. But that's what I know right now.
One more question. Earlier this year, you brought us an economic development incentive. At the same time, in the news media, if you looked, that company was being investigated by Congress. We never got that feedback from you. That would have been material information we needed to know. That's gone by the wayside. It's not an issue now. Why didn't we know?
Yeah, Councilmember Crabtree, I think you're talking about the Microvast project.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. And I believe the terminology that you use, the criminal investigation.
I didn't say criminal.
I mean, I'm
just
sorry,
said
the congressional investigation.
congressional
Yeah, I'm sorry, congressional investigation. They had a grant that was under review, if I'm not mistaken, and that was the Federal Department of Energy grant. So I believe that became public news sometime probably in the mid to late spring.
November. The investigation started in November, December.
Okay, but I think it kind of started really materializing as more public news sometime in the mid to late spring. We were made more directly aware of it by the company later than that. Of course, we became aware of it through the news, and so certainly, anyone on this council that was tracking that type of a project could have been aware through the public news sources that were available. And when it was made aware to us, it was made aware that the understanding was that this was a necessary process that was being going through, but that the company felt very confident that they would come out of that and that grant would still be secure, and even said that their decision to move forward wasn't necessarily attached to the grant at that particular point in time. We didn't know anything better than that until we all learned better than that once the grant was pulled, and I believe the company at that point announced what they announced and kind of reconsidered their options. But so I hear what you're saying. I think those things are always fluid, and we certainly share what we can share with you guys when we can in real time. In that particular instance, it was public information, so to that extent, I don't think anyone was trying to keep it from anyone. But the confidence of the company was that was going to get dealt with and they'd be able to move forward. Unfortunately, that's not what happened.
Any other questions for Mr. Hendricks? Well, Carter, thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you here in a little while.
Here in a little while.
Closed session. We're going to call on Mr. Blaine Ezel for our quarterly Public Works Department report. Thank you for already heading toward the podium as we have a packed schedule.
Good evening, and thanks for having me here tonight. Going to be reporting on the Public Works quarterly report, but it's going to be more about Bluegrass Splash and the health of the current park and what I know, and any questions you have, I'll be ready to answer or get you some answers. And anytime anybody would like to meet me there, I would be eager to show you my knowledge at the park. So when we closed early this year, obviously, I went out and started doing some testing. There was a water leak. We had known that. It grew throughout the season. That's why we ended up closing early. There's a 14-inch line that feeds the toy structure. It's not a pressurized line. It's a suction line, and that line has a crack in it about a third away from the top, and it's approximately 20 foot long from what we've seen. We haven't done any ground disturbance yet, but we had company come in, HWA come in. They were gracious of them to come in with their cameras and knowledge and do some investigating for us, and we did find a leak in the line. Also, the gutter lines around the blue slide, I'm doing some testing on those lines. It's 3 different sections of these gutters, and we made a repair in there in 19, just one of the 3 lines we did a repair on because that's all that was an issue at the time. But since then, that top wall has moved a little bit, and I feel like it's probably cracked another one of the threes, and we're gonna do some more testing on the walls just to see with some smoke. But we know that that's probably gonna be another culprit there, like a repair from 2019 we had. When we did some, the state come in to do our inspection, they have to come in every year to do the full park inspection before we open. We found some issues on the slides, the yellow and blue slides. They're nothing bad. I mean, obviously, we were able to open with their gracious and the past inspection, but we've got some hairline cracks in the fiberglass that need to be addressed before we would proceed, with opening in the spring. But also, about every pump out there is new, and that park is, it was built in '06, it opened in '07, so pumps don't go forever. That's something that I want to look at the horizon of getting at least some pumps on hand in case something does go out. There is a spot in the lazy river floor, which it's been there for, I guess it's been there for a little bit, about 3 years. The liner is not getting newer, obviously, and I think that may cause some issues if we don't look at addressing that. I mean, the liner needs to be cut back and get in there. The pool was built with gunite. It's just like a high-strength concrete over the whole entire pool. That failed years ago, but I think in that lazy river, it's starting to it's about 3 inches thick. It's coming to the top, so that needs to be addressed. And the piping in the pool house, when you shut that pump off, several of you have been out there when that has occurred, and it sounds pretty bad. So we need to strengthen the pipe in that pool house, and then also they can go in. It's typical of a mechanical room to go in and re-weld all the glue joints and buy you some more time. It's normally, when you do something like that, kind of a repair, it'll get you about 10 more years on strengthening up that pipe and re-welding the joints. Not every one of them's got to be done, but there are some that are leaking. It needs to be addressed. Those are the issues that we're currently aware of. And I'm just looking for a little direction on where we want to go. I do have a quote coming our way. I was hoping to get it tonight, but for the 14-inch line on the toy structure feed, but I did not get that quote before this meeting tonight. But kind of looking for some direction on where you want to proceed at this point.
You looking for that tonight?
Hard to say without,
I'd
without a quote.
I'd say we need some numbers, and then we need to just readdress that at that time. Yeah, I mean, tonight, yeah.
Sounds pretty
Yeah,
cheap, though.
Hey,
I'm sorry, Ms. Francis.
Thank you, Steve. Is it possible that we can get some photos too as well?
I have some photos, but you're on a camera about the size of your thumb inside a pipe. It's not the best, but I don't mind. I can email you those
Thank you.
tomorrow.
On the slide and all the other things that you were talking about as
Yes,
well.
yes. we
I
can do that.
appreciate it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I have a question,
Go ahead, Jamie.
because it's kind of my daytime wheelhouse. That suction line, are you considering, and you don't have to get real specific, but are you considering replacing it, relining it?
There's two options there. We can, the quote I'm reaching out for now is to line it. They come in and they do a spray.
Cured and okay, so how do you want to line it? You want to spray it, or you want to do a
It's a
inverted?
spray liner. They come in, they drive a little machine through the center of the pipe, and they coat the entire line.
What do they
That's
want to,
one option. And
what do
another
what do they, seriously, this is my wheelhouse. Where do they want to, what do they want to use with it? What do they want to coat it with? Or they want to spray it with a gunite product or an epoxy resin or
No, it'll be an
polyester resin?
epoxy type resin. It wouldn't be it's a plastic pipe.
Okay, so it's PVC.
Mhm.
Okay, have you looked at a cured in place liner?
Oh, what now?
A cured in place liner? It's inverted liner. It's resin impregnated. Sometimes it's felt, sometimes it's fiberglass resin.
I'm not really sure, but we're working with Spears Corporation on that, and they was going to get 2 or 3 options. And one option is to go in and just cut the line, pull fluoride back, and replace that line itself. But
I
there's-
want to come visit you in your office.
please,
All right.
I would like that.
All right, great.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Councilman Crabtree.
I think everyone knows I'm not the biggest water park person in the world, but
Really? No. Really?
what I would like to see you guys do is look at the end of next season, 2024, and start working back and figure out what can go wrong that's going to shut this park down and keep it from running. And figure out, get extras, whatever you need to do. If we're going to keep it, if we're going to fund it, let's fix it and be sure the darn thing works all year long. And you know, I hate to say it, but with some of the things I see on the news, it looks like there may be some more supply chain issues. I would say whatever you need, identify those and let's hear about them now. And, you know, because if we need to order something in April, good luck, we ain't gonna get it.
Correct.
So,
We got a pump now for the toy structure, that on this 14-inch line. That pump, they don't make it anymore. It is an option to rebuild it, but it's gonna have to go to a fab shop to get refabricated and customized. They just don't sell that style anymore. So that's one pump I know of, but naturally they're all the same age, so we're gonna have that. And I mean, the whole park was built with the same workmanship and quality. So there's 9 lines that go out there to that park. We have replaced 1 for the 0 entry. They were all built at the same time, same workmanship. So
but you know, it's
There
nice
is.
to get a quote to fix the issues that you found, but if you could step out there this time next year and let's work backwards and get everything that we need to do. Because what we don't need to do is come up next June and say, I'm sorry, public. You bought your tickets, you got your seasonal passes,
Believe
we're
me,
down again.
I understand.
That don't need to happen. So,
Fully
Enough
agree
said.
with you. But if the pool was built with like a chase underneath it, that's one thing, but everything is underground and the pipes are under the pool. When we did that 0 entry last year, we were pulling concrete out of there that was over 3 foot thick, and it was concrete completely encased the pipe. It's just not best option. I mean,
Anybody else got anything?
any
for
other
Blaine?
questions or comments or
are you done with the water park?
for
Are you done
tonight's
talking
talk? Yes.
Are you gonna talk about anything else?
No, sir.
I just want to say one more thing. I got an email the other day, one of the mayor's bunch, but kudos to Mike on the rail spur, because I heard he was a tough negotiator, and from the figures I saw, he did a darn good job, so kudos to Mike for his
Big
hard work
savings
there.
right there.
I believe we're
For
gonna see
sure.
more about that here in just a minute.
That's okay.
You
It never hurts to pat someone back when they do good.
give them a few tonight. All
I'll
right.
get some quotes together and I'll get everyone a memo once I know some true figures on repairs.
Thank you, Blaine.
Thank y'all.
All right. It's gonna move us down to item number C. And the gentleman in the colorful shirt, Mr. Darrell Anderson, gonna give us an IT update this evening. I'm looking forward to this. I've never had an IT update. Don't get too techy, I'll get lost.
No. We'll wait for the screens to catch up. Is it displaying on your screen yet?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah. We good?
You see blinking lights?
No, sir.
Nothing.
If you.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Got it now. There we go.
It's gone.
Takes a minute for them to catch up.
An IT update.
All right.
And this is what we get.
Yeah.
He done that on purpose, y'all.
Okay. All right, there we go. So for the newer council members, I'm Darrell Anderson, the Chief Technology Officer. And I'm going to give you just a couple of slides. I'll try to move as quickly as I can, but I do have a lot of stuff I want to share with you. The IT team supports a broad range of responsibilities throughout the city, including installing, supporting, troubleshooting, all range and manner of technologies throughout the city. Software, hardware, infrastructure, audio, visual, all those things. Basically, if it beeps, chirps, or buzzes, or plugs in the wall, they call us to try to make sure that it's working like it should be working all the time. There's 3 folks on the team. I'll talk about them in just a minute, but we support a barrage of different softwares, hardwares, technology labels. These are some of our more, what you see on the screen are some of our larger and more expansive forays into technology just by title. The team of 3 is responsible for all the city's desktop computers, all the wireless, mobile technology, the copiers, the printers, network switches, our email systems, building access control, entire network infrastructure, and even the cameras. We'll talk a lot more about the cameras here in a bit. So we 3 employees, we support over 300 employees, about 60 plus network switches, 190 wireless devices, including iPads, cell phones, those sort of things, 250 computers, about 20 servers, and over 300 network cameras, door access systems, and wireless access points throughout the city. There's myself, the Chief Technology Officer, and there's 2 fellows that work with me, Thomas Williams and Zach Boehm, and we are it. We are the core team. We do have a contractor that helps us with keeping up with the website. She takes information from all the departments across the city, makes sure the content is fresh and up to date, looks for errors and things. We also have a contracted certified cybersecurity consultant that helps us make sure that our systems are as secure as we can make them. He does routine cybersecurity checks and looks for vulnerabilities and advises us on what we need to change to keep the city's data infrastructure as safe as we can. Data security is our biggest challenge, and we focus most on that. We try to standardize our desktop PCs to Windows 11. We use a technology called Carbon Black as an endpoint protection solution, antivirus on all the computers. We've standardized the Microsoft Office 365. We put in what's called Duo, and it's a 2-factor authentication for access to emails. It's an application. You can't log into a city email without proving you are who you say you are. So either you install the app or you get a text, kind of like you do with your bank, just to make sure that no one's getting into your email account. We use 2-factor authentication now on our financial system. You can't log into the finance system without verifying a code that you get via email. We manage all that stuff, and we monitor it through a software called Landsweeper that kind of gives us a check on the health of all the devices on the network and helps us keep an inventory of what's on the network. And finally, most importantly, we use a solution called MailRoute. When I talked a little bit about this last year, it's a mail filtering system that every email that comes into the city of Hopkinsville to any city employee goes to this system, and it keeps up with the latest threats for harming the user's email. And that's where the biggest portion of the compromised data environments comes from, is email. And I gave the same numbers, or the same kind of report last year, and the numbers have grown quite a bit. City of Hopkinsville employees this past year got about 1.8 million inbound emails. People tried to email us 1.8 million times throughout the city. Of those 1.8 million, 51% of them were actual, real, legitimate emails. Now, some of them were just junk mail and solicitations, but they weren't malicious mail. 49% of them were spam or phishing or malware. And the MailRoute solution that I just talked about blocked those things from even getting to the desktop or the cell phones of our users. So it's a great tool, but in terms of the volume, it's just interesting to know we've got almost 2 million emails coming in to 300 employees over the course of a year. IT also plays a role in physical security. We maintain an inventory of our technical and technology hardware. When hardware breaks or gets worn out or outdated or we can't get support for it, we come to you and ask you if we can get rid of it. And recently we coordinated with HES, General Electric, HPD, and Public Works to deploy an additional 75 to 85 video cameras along the rail trail and other strategic locations throughout the city. This was an ARPA-funded project, and thanks a lot to that ARPA Future Funding Committee Chair, Ms. Craig, Council members Crabtree and Keel for helping push this project through. We finally got everything up and online. We replaced even 35 older analog cameras that were failing or had failed in this whole environment. In this environment, we've got about 341 cameras around the city now. There's 3 new emergency call boxes along the trail. With this ARPA fund money, we were able to add an additional 85 cameras, including 41 new street cameras. And at the rail itself, we have now 22 locations. And I say that with emphasis because we have 55 cameras, but sometimes we put 1, 2, 3, or 4 cameras at a pole on a location or on top of a call box. And we were able to replace 13 of the older non-functioning cameras, and that's with the fund. So that solution is up and moving well. We added a new server to host the new HD cameras that we put in place because it's faster. It's got hard drives that record all of this video for 31 days on faster hard drives. It has more memory. It's just a bigger box with a lot more horsepower. And that way we didn't have all of our eggs in one basket and all the video going to a single server. So we split it up that way. Did you want to ask questions about the project? Our current major projects, the Acela Civic Plus software suite implementation is our biggest deal. It's going to replace GovPilot. It's going to provide mobile device tools for our city staff for codes enforcement as well as abatement. It leverages and uses our existing GIS environment, all the great work that they do in GIS. It replaces much of the KTAX functions that we had in place, and it provides a tool and a workflow for managing lien properties across the city. Our other big project we have this year, and I'll talk more about that in a second, but our other big project for this year is replacing the city's aged telephone system. This year, we're going to replace about 200 desktop telephones. The phone system itself was about 11 years old, and it used to have a feature that all the city employees loved, where if you got a voicemail, it would forward that voicemail to your email. So you could be away from the office, and you could click on that email, and you would get an audio file, and you were able to listen to your voice messages. Well, Microsoft really increased the security requirements for emails, and this old 11-year-old solution didn't meet those requirements, which really prompted us to push forward to try to get this replaced. So it's a 2-year project. This year, we replaced the desk telephones for our employees because that will work with the old phone system. The new phone system is next year's capital budget, part of the project in next year's capital. The old phones won't work with the new system, but the new phones will work with the old system. So we're taking it a step at a time so there's not as big of an impact on the capital budget because there's a lot more requests out there across the other departments. And quite frankly, fire trucks and cop cars get stuff before I do. So we're trying to share. I was talking about that Acela project, huge project. The original go live time that the consultants gave us was a mid to late October go live. We are on track to have by October 1st online property tax payments. Citizens should be able to pay their taxes online October 1st. I've got a mayor and a city administrator who's kicking me in the tail all the time, making sure that we stay on time, and we're pressing the project manager and the consultants that are putting the software together. Right after that, we'll follow code enforcement. We'll provide electronic tools for code inspections. You'll take a tablet type device. You'll see the tickets or the complaints, or you're just cruising around and you see something. You document it, you take the picture, and it goes in real time into the system. Then it gets queued up. Whatever their process is at the end of the time, it automatically feeds to the public works abatement team. You know, you're not cutting your grass, you're not cutting your grass. We warn you, then we got to come out and cut your grass. We're going to send you a bill. But it's all automated, and it takes all the paper process that we've been using for so many years out of play. So we're continuing to work with the company Redmark to get that installed and making sure we're getting the timelines that we want to get to. For property tax revenue staff, as I understand it, it's supposed to be ready to start stuffing envelopes by the end of the month for tax bills. There are some risks, but I think there's nothing that we can't manage our way through. We do have a dependency on the GIS work of configuring the software for the permit process that CDS is working on us to get completed. But as I said, I got a mayor who's been very clear that we got to get it done. And we're pressing all the partners, finance, public works, and CDS to get everything we need to do to the people that are setting up the software so that we're able to launch on time. So that's what we're doing in terms of where we go from here. As you guys may or may not remember, I'd ask you for a mobile device solution, and that ask will be repeated again through our next budget process. We'll hit the second part of our telephone system upgrade next year. We have a 4-year refresh program for employee desktop computers that we'll do. And with the mayor's help, we're gonna try to replace the remaining older analog video cameras that are all throughout the city. One of the things we're really challenged with in terms of IT is not only just physical and logical security, but where artificial intelligence for city governments, local governments come to play. Mayor and Troy have really picked up on this and have got me studying and trying to learn and understand what the threats are with artificial intelligence, as well as how we can leverage that new technology for local government. We are understanding now that AI, artificial intelligence, really is kind of a tacit knowledge. Kind of like asking someone to explain, how do you ride a bike? Well, you can't really tell someone how to ride a bike. It's a little more complicated than that. But what we can do is identify the facts that are involved in riding the bike, the things that you have to do, and the tasks that you have to do to ride the bike. Well, AI is a tool based on a huge database of information, quite frankly, that takes a framework of what you ask it to do, compares what you're asking it to do to a huge database, and then through logical and probable likelihoods gives you ways to accomplish what you're trying to do. I know that sounds kind of thick sounding, but it's really not as scary as you might think it is. For instance, we are looking at how to use AI technology in structural building health monitoring systems. If we know that we've got a 10-year-old HVAC system and what are the typical causes in that database for that system to fail, it tests our system against those things and helps us figure out and predict. We might need to replace a belt, or we might need to replace a chiller unit before it actually fails. And that's how AI can be used. In HR, we've already started talking about and thinking about, and Kenny's introduced the idea of using this chatbot technology for kiosk. Maybe having a kiosk where you come to City Hall and you want to pay your taxes, you type, and it says, what do you want to do today? You type in pay taxes, and we tell it what are the available options, and it gives you options. And the more information or framework that you give it, the more it drills down to the most appropriate option for you to use. So there's lots of different ways, and that's probably the most typical way for folks to use AI is through Chat GTP. And that's can be used really for communications more than anything else. I know some people are worried that in schools, kids are using it to kind of slick by on writing papers and essays and that sort of thing. But for us, we can maybe do a better job of writing our public communications and our internal communications and our job descriptions and even emails and memos. So I wanted to kind of show you a little bit more about how Chat GTP is used and how we might use it here. So as an example, and this is just an example, let's suppose that our city administrator decides, Daryl, you really messed up on that last council meeting. You misspelled Steve Keel's name or whatever. And he's hot about it. So he sends me an email. It says, Daryl, I received several comments from the community on last week's meeting broadcast. I don't like being put in that position. Please make sure the spelling on presentation slides is correct before council meetings. Embarrassing us with your stupid spelling errors will not be tolerated. And he thinks about it. And he says, I was a little warm when I wrote that. So he kind of goes back and rethinks it. So with these Chat GTP type of applications that are available, you basically copy that text into a website, into an engine. And I just picked this one randomly because it's free. But it lets you, if you look at the screen, it lets you take that text and it gives you options if you pay for it and you pay all the whistles, lets you put a spin on the communication. You could say, make this more friendly, or make this more funny, or make this softer. So you put your text in there, and then you just ask it then to come here and paraphrase that. So it takes that text and then it rewrites it, and now it says, Daryl, regarding the broadcast of the meeting last week, I have heard from the community quite a bit. Being in that situation is not something I enjoy. Before council sessions, kindly check the spelling on the presentation slides. We won't put up with you embarrassing us with your spelling mistakes. Still not the sweetest note he could send me, right? But it's a little softer, and the technology lets you do that. Technology lets you do that. So that's kind of how it works, and we're looking and exploring all sorts of options to use that kind of technology. And we are excited to embrace it and find the best ways to apply it through all the departments of the city. So that's kind of what I want to update you on. A lot more detail, it may or may not be in the documents that were provided with your packet, but that's kind of the high level of what we got going on in IT, what we've been doing, what we're going to do. And if you have any questions, I'd love to try to answer them for you.
Thank you, Daryl. Does anybody have any questions for Daryl on his presentation? Ms. Francis?
Appreciate it. Hi. Do you have a timeline on when we're gonna, you have a timeline on when we're gonna have this completed
Which
on the update, all of it, everything that you're doing?
Oh, gosh, I mean, we're working, we got several balls in the air all the time. We've, like I said, on the Acela stuff, working with Melissa and her finance team, we'll have the online tax collection. That should be ready to go by October 1st. We'll have codes active in both the codes enforcement and public works areas for abating things by the end of October, and making sure that that's in place, as well as the lien property management process. That is a complicated part of the solution because there are maps that have to be aligned with the properties and their status in terms of their liens. And that's a tool that finance and I think Doug will use quite a bit. Instead of trying to look through and type in an address, you go to a map and you click on a house and, oh, well, that one's in good shape, or oh, this guy's 3 years out and paying his property taxes. And so there's a process, it's all automated. There's workflows that we're developing so that the process becomes no more emails and paper notes. It's all part of a single solution that the city staff, the city attorney, the homeowner, and the public can see the status of these properties, just like it is all over the place. So those things will come into play over the next couple of months. We'll be ready to go, hopefully, with building permits and that part of the solution, so that folks who want to build a garage in the backyard can either go online and do the permit application instead of coming back and forth to bring papers and plans and payments. Everything is becoming automated. So like I said, I got the mayor pressing me hard to make sure that we get that done. On the phone system, we'll get the desktop phones replaced by the end of this calendar year. And then in July, we'll start working on the new phone system.
Thank you.
Councilman Crabtree?
So as I understand it, Daryl, with the upcoming tax bill being mailed out, will that be in Acela?
Yes.
Okay.
Melissa's team will get them all mailed out on time by the end of this month.
What date is that they start getting mailed out?
Melissa, can you help me?
October 31st.
We had to wait until you guys pass the property tax rate before we can start printing bills. So after tonight, we start tomorrow.
Okay. And they'll be going out of Acela as it is today.
They will be going out of Excel, yes.
Okay.
And we'll have a couple of weeks to print them, test them, get them out. We've already been testing, but we will get them out by the end of the month. We set the last day of the month as the last day to mail them out. We try to mail them out before the last day, but they go out the 30th, if not before then.
So the IT guy always says it's right. Is it right to send out, I mean, the system you validated enough to know that I'm convinced it's working right.
Yes, we validate our property tax bills with the tax roll that we get from the PVA before we send them out. So there's lots of balancing and checks. There's all kinds of things that goes into it. Homestead exemptions. I won't send out the bills until they're ready and until they're accurate.
Okay.
Good, Chuck?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, Daryl, and back to the cameras, rail trail project, and this is something I know with, I know Amy and I, several of us were on the Chuck, you, and I think Jason was on the Future Funding Committee. I just want to say to all the contractors that were involved, IT, HES, Penny Ryle, everybody that was involved, that project, probably I've had more people just come out and say thank you to all of council. A lot of folks in my area use that trail, being living in the historic district. And that's something that I think we had a very positive effect. And I know IT had a big part of it, but I want to just recognize HES and Penny Ryle and Public Works as well. A lot of work went into that, and people are noticing and people are appreciative. And I just wanted to be sure everybody that was involved in that. And if I'm missing anybody, I don't know, CDS, y'all, down the line, there was a lot of folks involved, and I want to be sure everybody gets the credit deserved. That was a big deal for a lot of people.
Yep. Big takeaway is we've got cameras all the way up and down the trail. We've got added 3 more emergency call boxes. So we want to make it as safe and folks to enjoy the trail as much as we can.
All right. Well, I appreciate you very much, Darrell. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to move right along to monthly agency and board council reports. Councilmember Leinenberger, do you have anything to report on any of the boards or committees that you sit on?
Well, we've had a lot going on. This is my first time doing this, so I didn't know how far you wanted to go back, but.
Just kind of give us a brief update on what you got going on, I guess.
All right. Well, specifically in our ward, we had a little thing called Bloom Up Bryant Street, and a challenge house has been chosen, and they'll get some help from the men to bees, and we're gonna do some stuff there and revitalize a challenge house a little bit. The Military Affairs Committee that I sit on has been very busy. Krista Murtha is segueing away, transitioning to a position on Fort Campbell, and a young lady by the name of Shannon Lane is stepping in. And being a military family, both a child of and a mother of military members, the Military Affairs Committee is very near and dear to my heart. So we've been doing a lot of things. There's been Rudolph run that was great. The fair, we had some volunteers there. The month of the military child was awesome, and the turkey giveaway, lots going on. The Penny Ryle RC&D, the All About Trees is coming up, and local arborist Mike Perry, he kind of hides things from us a little bit, but he's going to be speaking on trees and what to do and what to plant and all that stuff. The pavilion dedication, that was pretty awesome. The Fall Fest is coming up, so grab your tickets and come on out. Take kids fishing was fun. And then the library, they're busy doing all sorts of stuff. Tiffany Luna is keeping us on track for there. And then the legacy development, all that stuff that's going on there. Just the ways to revitalize and keep Hopkinsville downtown growing and energized. There is some good stuff coming out of those meetings. So it's been busy. I've been busy, and it's just been an adventure.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Councilmember Leinenberg. We're going to scroll right through the unfinished business portion as we have none. And I believe Melissa Clayton has something to talk about on the Inner City Res Rental Rehabilitation Incentives Program.
Good evening. We had a meeting about the inner city res budget. I believe it was the 1st of August. During that meeting, we talked about several of the programs, and out of that meeting, we're bringing a recommendation to you to rescind the rental rehabilitation incentive program. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you guys have them.
Any questions on this? I particularly have one. No, I don't have a question. I've just kind of got a statement about the rental rehabilitation program. I firmly believe we need to make some changes to this program. I don't believe that if you're a property owner, an investment property, and you've owned a house for 10, 15 years as a for-profit business, that you should be getting incentive money from the inner city res to do roofs and windows. That's part of operating a business. However, when I go back and look at this program, it was launched in 2013, I do believe. Since 2013, we've revitalized 25 houses using this program at an average incentive cost of $6,760 per property. So what we're gaining from that is we are going into these areas at an incentive cost less than the cost of a demolition, less than, when I look at this from a fiscal responsibility, is less than demo cost. Some of these properties are going to have code enforcement issues, which is an additional cost. There's abatement cost for public works. There's the lien cost, and there's the foreclosure cost. So when I look at what we're doing, I also look at one of the key issues we discuss in this room and in other conversations is housing stock, and more importantly, affordable housing stock. So in these areas, if the inner city res is truly designed to improve these inner city areas, then I think taking this program away as a whole, my personal opinion is that it's a mistake. Because what we're doing is when we come in and do these, and I can get Ms. Boggess, I believe, to come up and verify this for me, but these houses have to be brought up to code. They have to be inspected. And as long as they have a mortgage on the house, the city's on the mortgage. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. So where I do see a need for a change in what we're doing, I think the long term, you know, when I see somebody getting help with the roof on a house in the inner city res, I firmly believe that is meant for some folks that own their houses that maybe have a little bit of an issue. I personally go on a door knocking from time to time in these areas. I've had the benefit, I should say, of meeting some folks, 70-year-old widow woman whose husband died. She has this house. She needs the help. She 100% needs the help. But then I flip to the front side of this, and I firmly believe these incentives need to be paid solely on the front end on newly identified properties. We have several individuals that are utilizing this. They're going in, taking a house that is not up to code, that isn't in good repair. They're putting, according to one individual that I talked to, because I've known him almost my whole life, I asked him, he's putting $60,000, $70,000 a house in. The incentive is maxed out at $10,000, but the average incentive on the 25 units that I'm aware of is $6,760. From helping the neighborhoods, from a fiscal responsibility, and for getting these things up to code, I don't know why we would get rid of this program. I do not. Now, as a chair, I don't think it's my responsibility to make any motions, but I would, you know, all that being said, and if anybody's got any questions, there are people here to ask. What I would like to see is the chair is a motion to send this program and this MO back down to CDS, because according to the MO and the way it's set up, CDS designs program. That's the way it's set up right now. That's what we have to work with. And I would like to see them bring us something back that we're still going to take care of these neighborhoods. I don't like seeing houses torn down. I don't like seeing public works out here mowing. I don't like seeing houses abandoned and being squatted in. And for I'm going to call it a low cost. I mean, for the last 10 years, $169,000 since 2013 on 25 units. That pencils out to $6,760 by my math. I think it's a bargain. We're doing, I mean, we sat in here and just gave a 60% rebate on occupational tax to Toyota. We have sat in this room and bonded $3.6 million for Ascend Elements. We have sat in this room and given property tax rebates over 20 years to builders. Why can't we do the same for the inner city? Why can't we do the same for these folks? Because I guarantee you the 6760 on average is a heck of a lot less than what we're doing for everybody else. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
I motion that we send this back to CDS and have it
Second.
relooked at.
Discussion on that,
See,
Bruce?
I kind of want to say to CDS to look at the program and possibly
like Steve said, do an upfront incentive to keep this program, because if we can prevent the problem from going through the foreclosure process and all of that, if we can keep those properties, like he said, it saves us money. Plus, you're getting the private sector to invest into the community. And I totally agree. Not only, you know, I know we're talking about inner city res funds, but I'd also at some point would like to see how we can redo our incentives for residential housing, because along with all this economic development, we want these people to live in Hopkinsville.
Amen.
And in order to do that, we're going to have to help get that started. There's been other programs in other cities, and at possibly maybe the next meeting or so, maybe we can get something on the agenda or at least talk
I think
about
we can
that.
add that to
Yeah,
the next
to
meeting's
be
agenda.
able
I
to
like that
to
idea.
talk about that issue.
That
But
sounds good to me.
like I said, I know I got a little off subject, but I wanted to
Gotcha.
add that too.
Okay. Ms. Leinenberg?
And I understand a lot of the homeowners, they may be elderly, you know, in my ward, I deal with a lot of older residents and things and that need help with their homes and things like that. And I've been working with them on that. But I also think if someone is able-bodied, there ought to be some form of sweat equity from that person, just to help. I think sweat equity around your house helps with pride of ownership or pride of renting, just pride of living in your home. You know, having a nice facade or having a nice interior. I think there ought to be some form of binding agreement that has a little bit of sweat equity for the person that resides there or owns the home, or both. I'd like to see that, not just to sit back and accept things being done or money, you know, to help your house, but a little sweat equity never hurt anybody.
Terry?
Also, when we have different corporations blow through Hopkinsville to kind of take the purview on what's this town look like? How are they taking care of their citizens? Is this going to be the type of community that I want to bring my family to? They're going to take a hard look around and they're going to say, how is the community meeting the needs of those that are less advantaged? And I think we have a requirement to meet those needs in some way, shape, or form, whether it is private individuals helping out with it, if we're kicking in money for this program right here. We need to meet those needs and build that area of our city up while we're doing the downtown as well. I think we can do both at the same time.
We've got a motion, a second on the floor.
This resolution that we had, the order that you had down here was talking about rental properties, owners of rental properties. Yet we're talking about folks that own their own homes. Is that right?
What the motion on the floor is to send this back to CDS to revamp the rental rehabilitation program. And I think what we're pretty well asking for, I think the message is being received by the heads shaking on the second row, is we want to see more of a upfront, once you get it, you're done, and there is no more as long as you own that property, I think is what I hope you're hearing.
For rental,
Yes, for rental
for
purposes,
rental
yes.
property.
Yes.
Okay.
And,
To the property owner.
and so let's go ahead, if we got that motion on the floor. You got something? I mean,
On that motion, on that ordinance, that we do not allow them to come back for at least 5 to 6 years.
well, here, let me stop right there, man. Let's do this. First thing I want to do is let's go ahead and get a vote on the motion. Can we do that? Doug, we good to do that? I'm not done here. I promise you, I'm not done. Let's get a vote on the motion. Everybody ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we got that going back down. And Doug, keep me out of the weeds here, okay? Do we, since we're sending it back down to them, we have this as on the agenda, can we say, let's do this? Can I say right here to say Chairman Craig from future funding, why don't we let CDS put something together and then do a future funding meeting. So we have several council members in the room and they can tell us when they're ready to present and they'll bring it to us. Can I do that right here? Okay, that's what we're gonna do. So CDS, when you have something ready, we'll contact Chairman Craig of Future Funding, and she will schedule a meeting, and we will get together, we'll take a look at it, and we'll go from there. Is that good to everybody?
I do have a question. We've had a new council, new mayor since the last future
The
funding.
Future Funding meeting, everybody was put on, I was appointed to that, I was reappointed, and when did that board expire?
I thought you.
Yeah.
That board was reappointed.
That, I swear that board was reappointed because at the very beginning of the year, that was the board I was still sitting on. We need to maybe go back and look at that, but I am 99% sure that that board is still intact. Right.
Yeah.
But
'Cause
everybody,
I know, I remember Council Member Smiley was, because
Right.
Council Member Smiley, as I got the thing, I know
Yes.
Smiley was put on it, and I
Mhm.
don't know, I think maybe Terry's, I remember, I can't remember everybody off the list.
Chuck, J Bell,
Yeah.
you, and Bruce.
So we'll figure it out. How about this? Y'all get something together, you send something over to Amy, we'll figure it all out, and we'll get it back up here to council, we'll make something happen. How about that? That sound good to everybody?
Yes.
There we go. So I guess we're off of that one, and you're still up here.
I am.
So I guess you have more to talk about.
I do. So next I get to bring in an update on the rail spur construction bid that the city we took bids on. I want to first start by kind of updating council on the city has received a $7 million grant from the state, from Kentucky Economic Development. It's a Kentucky Economic Development grant. As part of that grant was supposed to be used in conjunction with the Ascend Element project that's going in out at Commerce Park 2. When we got the road construction bids back, it was less than what we had expected. So we were able to rework the $7 million grant to include the rail spur, which we did. So we have calculated the road construction and the rail spur. So what the amount of money that is left in the Kentucky Economic Development Grant, the $7 million, is $1,145,110. So that's the amount we have from the grant to fund the rail spur. The rail spur construction, not the design that we did before. This is the construction of the rail spur. So when we got the bids back last week, the original bid came in at $1,694,000 and some change. As you guys know, we had put in an MO to use quite a bit of money out of the Economic Development Fund to pay the difference. Mike Perry, that you guys alluded to earlier, went into negotiations with them and was able to get the rail spur construction bid down to $1,252,550. So he saved the city over $440,000. So hats off to him. We do need additional money from the Economic Development Fund to finish the construction of the rail spur. I think the amount that we put in the MO is $107,440. We're asking you to forward this MO to council so we can sign the contract to complete construction of the rail spur.
I make a motion, we forward it to council.
I've got Craig and Martin. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Any discussion? You've got me on that four, Chuck. You kind of look like you had something to say. Any discussion on this? Okay, now, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And
Thank you,
we
guys.
are done with that.
All right.
Oh, so you're still there?
I'm
I
still
guess that
here.
means we're up to item C, what I will call the main event. Code enforcement presentation, and Chief Futrell, good to see you up there, sir. Floor is yours.
All right, so when we first began having discussions about code enforcement, I do what I always do. I began to research. So the first thing I do when I research is I like to start with the Kentucky League of Cities, because they have a lot of useful information out there for cities about how to organize and how cities all over the state of Kentucky do things. So I started at the Kentucky League of Cities. I went to it's an online kind of booklet that they have. This book's pretty big, but it's called A Comprehensive Analysis of City Operations. So I went to that book, and the first thing I did was look up where they say code enforcement is organized. Under the Kentucky League of Cities in this book, they organize code enforcement as part of public safety. So after learning that fact, I went back to their website, and I just wanted to know, what is code enforcement? So what I'm trying to do right now is just kind of tell you what we're talking about when we talk about code enforcement. We are talking about ordinances that are aimed at regulating the living standards of a city, okay? It's passed, the ordinances are passed to address blight, noise, unsafe construction, litter, and other unseemly or dangerous property conditions. So we can, as a city, effectively battle all of these issues by ordinances. And if we were starting from the beginning, we would be asking ourselves, how best would we organize this if we were starting from ground up? But we're not starting from ground up. The next thing we did was more research. We reached out to all kinds of cities all over the state, asking them how they do code enforcement. I reached out to some of my finance people. I know Chief Futrell reached out to some of his folks. So we began networking. How do you guys do code enforcement? How is it organized? And from all of that research that we did, we began having internal discussions as a city team. How does code enforcement work best, or could it work best for us as a city? And as we got into those discussions, we began to realize, or we felt like code enforcement would fit best for us under the fire department. So I'm going to turn it over to Chief Futrell now, and he's going to kind of explain why we think it fits best under the fire department.
Good evening. So just to give you a little bit of information about fire departments in general and how they do code enforcement and how we plan to do it and why we think it fits with us. As you can see, we reached out to several cities, and there's many more. We just wanted to get some that kind of mimicked us in size that do code enforcement now. We know that code enforcement is a city function and a city responsibility. And the reason why it fits good under the fire service is because what you may not know now or may not realize is we do code enforcement every day. The fire department, this fire department, is deputized under the state fire marshal's office to do code enforcement. As you can see, we have up here, we have 3 different divisions in the fire department already: a EMS division, fire division, and then our fire prevention division, who has our fire marshals. Our fire marshals every day do code enforcement. They're responsible for multifamily dwellings, commercial businesses, regulated buildings. Now we are responsible for schools, daycares, and health cares. The state changed that last year. We do life safety inspections and code enforcement under a different authority than the city code enforcement, but it's what we do. We focus on that every day. So what we feel like is if we were to bring the code enforcement that is regulated by city ordinance and the property maintenance code under this division, it would allow us to have oversight of that with the city as a city department and give us a more focused approach on code enforcement, as this division that is already built will do this every day. And I do want to mention that there are some changes that will happen operationally, of course, but one thing that will not change is the appeals process. That's a KRS issue. The appeals process for code enforcement will remain with that board that is appointed. Our appeals process, if it's done through the fire marshal's office, is different, but the code enforcement that is done through property maintenance code and city ordinances will remain with that appointed board.
So we have not gotten into the details a lot of where everybody thinks we are in the process. But I want you to know that this is already budgeted. Part of this is already budgeted in the city budget. We currently have $505,000 already dedicated to code enforcement. If we create this new division, we'll be bringing over some of the fire salaries. The fire marshals will go, they're already under the fire prevention division, but it will just be a new we'll separate it from the actual fire department, and we're going to create a new department. So what next? That's what we're here for tonight. We are here looking for support from you guys. If you are in favor of us creating a fire prevention division, we are asking you to forward to the next committee of the whole the detailed package, okay? Where we would bring job descriptions, we would bring a budget amendment, we would bring changes to ordinances, all the things that we need to make happen in order to create the new fire prevention division. So with that being said, we'd be happy to answer questions or have discussion from you.
All right, Councilmember Meek.
So, Steve, how is this going to impact your core mission? I know that you said that you're doing this every day and everything, but
Right.
this is an added burden that's going to be put on probably your deputy or whoever you assign to it.
Right.
And I guess what we're trying to achieve with this is steady state operations, correct?
Yes.
Because we have a backlog, et cetera. So once we invest all of this money into making this effort go to steady state operations, what are we going to do once we achieve steady state operations? And now we have taxpayer money on the line with an extra department. What are we going to do with that? How do we back this up?
With our personnel, so this division, this department, this is what they do now. So we would boost this department with those employees that are doing code enforcement. And I can't really talk about employees, so I have to be careful what I say there right now. But we feel like this is a function that we currently do, just at a different angle. So to be able to bring these employees in that will do this function and still have oversight of the same type of direction that we're doing here with public safety and with code enforcement, with nuisance codes, we feel like that division will be able to handle this.
So how many individuals would you need to bring on to plus up?
I think that is something that we have to wait to discuss until the next meeting. Is that correct?
I would anticipate there are going to be job descriptions that need to be put together and submitted for your approval. And that's part of the process for the next meeting if you want to take it to the next step.
Right. So that gets back to my original question. Once we achieve steady state operations, what do we do with all of those extra employees that we have funded with city taxpayer dollars?
The positions are already funded with city taxpayer dollars. We're already paying these salaries. We're just contracting out the service. And I will tell you that the cities I talk to, they're like, you contract out your code enforcement, like they're all scratching their head. Like most cities do not contract out code enforcement like we do.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand because I want to make sure for our city, individuals paying their taxes, that this baby meets the need, first of all.
Mhm.
It's not excessive and it's not over budget later on.
Okay, I think I was a little bit confused in what you were asking, but maybe this will clear it up. We currently pay a third party to do this now.
Correct.
We would just be stopping paying them and would be keeping that money in our own payroll. We would still have those employees still getting paid, just under a different oversight, under a different division, be city employees instead of a contracted employee. Is that what you were looking for?
It's close.
Okay.
I mean, we're in a fact-finding process right now. And we want to make sure that we go down all the holes. So,
Right, absolutely.
okay.
Yes.
From a budgetary standpoint, the numbers don't change. We're paying this now, we'll pay this. It's, okay, that's what I'm wondering. Councilman Crabtree.
And I know, Melissa, I know you didn't say it exactly this way, but this is kind of the way I heard it. And correct me where I'm wrong. I thought I heard what you said, or what it sounded like to me was, you got to send it on to council for us to bring you the plan. That's kind of what I heard. I don't know if that's the way you meant it. And maybe, Doug, I don't know, maybe there's a reason you're doing that. I want to hear the plan. You know.
No, what we're asking for is to take it to the next committee of the whole meeting. What we're asking is
Okay.
we're not asking to go to council. We're asking to go to the next committee of the whole meeting to bring you a detailed plan, detailed number of employees, detailed operational ideas, costs, time frame, all of that.
So basically, in the next council of the whole, or committee of the whole, whatever, I can look at what we got today, and I can look at what the new proposal is gonna be, and then we decide from there.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Chief, I
Well,
guess the
that-
question is this for you and Melissa both, and I know the guys on the back row. How long currently have y'all been performing this research? If
A long
you-
time.
I mean, seriously, 3 months, 4 months, 6
No,
months?
6, 7 months.
So we've been, so basically what you're saying is
February.
we've got it to the point now. Is it worth, is council gonna be wanting to hear, or have we just thrown it,
Right.
you know?
We have
I see
spoken
what
to
you're,
other
I
directors.
guess I see
We've
what you're
spoken to
asking here.
KLC. We have spoken to lawyers who deal with code enforcement
So
every day.
before we put in the time and effort
Yeah.
to do the pay scales, the job creations, and go that much further, we've got the research. We know what the research is showing, other cities are doing,
Right.
and those things. So before we add a whole lot of more work to these individuals, is it gonna be something we're gonna wanna hear?
We wanted to make
That's
sure
what I'm
that
hearing.
it
That's what I'm
made
hearing we're voting on
sense.
tonight.
We wanted to make sure that it made sense. It was a function that we could address, something that we could handle, something that we could bring to you that we don't want to fail, right? So we wanted to make sure that it was something that was in our wheelhouse, something that we were comfortable with doing, and something that, I mean, this is not something that is new. It's not something that other cities are not doing. It is something that they are absolutely doing and doing it well. So, and we are meeting with those cities and meeting with KLC and having those discussions.
Councilmember Martin.
Is what you're going to propose, is it nuisance codes only or building codes as well? Or is it too early to?
It is nuisance codes as far as any code enforcement infraction goes. It is not permitting, it's not new construction, it's not plan review.
Okay.
So I guess my question would be, I know you all have planned and prepared for this for, what did you say, 6 months? Have our current code officers been in the loop as to the research that you all have conducted? Have they been in on these meetings? The reason I ask is because I actually rode with our code officers. So I got a firsthand look at what they do. And I feel like they should have, if not been included, they need to be at the table.
Right. We agree, and we've had that discussion a lot of speaking with those employees. We've had several discussions with Mr. Britton. And after tonight, our hope is permission to speak to those employees to make sure that when we come to you with a plan that talks about employees and personnel, that we give you the right information.
And I guess the second part of the question, the contingency plan, if they do not, our current officers do not come over, what's that going to look like?
We don't have that plan yet, but I will tell you that when I started doing my research for code enforcement, I did meet with Mr. Britton and had him explain to me notice of violations, how the code enforcement process works. Like I took 4 pages of notes the day we talked about it. So just trying to understand the process of what we currently do now. We don't have a contingency plan yet because we have not really been allowed to speak with the employees yet. So if you guys are in favor of us moving forward, because you guys are the ones who make the decision. So if you're in favor of us moving forward and forming this division, this fire prevention division, we will bring all of that to you in October. And if you want us to stop tonight, we'll be done. The decision is yours.
Hold on, Chuck. Ms. Francis, then we're going to Mr. Meek, then we're coming back to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So everybody knows the next few moves.
Good afternoon, Chief. Could I speak with you?
Yes, ma'am.
You said you had few meetings with the employees of,
I had no meetings with the employees. We had a
Okay.
couple meetings with Mr. Britton.
a couple or one?
One. I had one with him that I was in, yes.
Okay, so you're still in the starting basis because you didn't have that many meetings. So it's still rolling, right?
Well, I think he's had more than one meeting with city
Several.
officials, but just one with myself.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. All right, I'm listening. Go ahead. You got me intrigued.
I don't know what.
No, I was just listening to when you were saying how many meetings you had and then no meetings with the employees. So go
No,
ahead.
ma'am, I have not met with the employees.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I wanted to make sure I heard you right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Councilmember Meek.
So, I don't mind entertaining the process of what you're going through. My question would be, I'd like to hear from CDS to ensure that there was adequate funding for them, that there were enough personnel, man-hours affordable to them to carry out this job. And then also whether we had any teeth to the program to ensure that it was allowed to follow the entire process through. I'd like to know those type of answers before I could, move on further in this process, if that makes sense. Because I'd like to know where we were at, what precipitates this, and then why are we moving forward?
Yeah,
like
I
this?
believe that would be up to the council. I don't.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Chuck.
I'm like Councilman Meeks. I want to hear the plan, but I'm not committing to anything other than you're coming back with another plan and let's look at it and see. That's what I'll agree to. If it's, I know we're talking about forming this new fire prevention. I want to see the plan and then I want to vote on it, and to study it a little bit. And I think I'd like to hear from more people than less. Definitely, Mr. Britton's bunch, you guys, other departments, how it would play out. And the personnel is, definitely important. So I'm good to go to the next step. If the next step is, here's the plan and showing us that, I'm good with that. And I'll make that into a
Okay,
motion if you
So I'm gonna
want.
say, if we got a motion from
Yes, it
Councilman
is.
Crabtree to push forward to, I guess, for y'all to move forward to the next step and, show us what we got from a funding and a operational standpoint. And we will anticipate a lot more discussion. Do I have a second on that motion? I got Councilmember Martin on the second. All in favor, say aye.
Well, don't we get a chance to have
I'm sorry,
discussion at this point?
Let's fire away some more. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, so at this point, we're talking about building code enforcement?
No,
No.
we're not
No,
talking about
okay.
building codes.
So you're just talking about nuisance codes, which
Grass,
is,
trash, and weeds.
okay.
Trash, weeds, and just,
Okay. I just want to be
From-
clear about that.
the basic property maintenance is gonna fall
Basic
under that
property
as
maintenance
well,
code.
which is not a
Yeah,
building code.
City ordinance. Right.
Currently funded under inner city res, if I'm correct.
No.
That's
no.
what it used to be. We may have changed it this year. Doug, did you have something? I thought I heard you over there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious. So we had a $7,500 consultant report that was delivered. It was, it was initiated in April. We got the report on, I guess I was in a meeting 2 or 3 weeks ago. How does this square with that report? Because we were told in that meeting that report was effectively a rough draft that we would get another revision of. And when are we going to see that? And when are we going to see it square with CDS and what their side of the story is, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it?
I'm not sure when we're going to get the consultant's next report.
Well,
Did Mr. Body tell you that?
No.
the mayor, well, go ahead. Natasha was there, but yeah, no, I mean, the mayor and Troy said we'd have a revised we were going to revise the consultant's report.
He did come down and meet with us.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Maybe 3 weeks ago, we worked on a revision to the plan. I'm not sure when he's going to release that or when we will have it.
But I guess I'm not as concerned about when we're going to have it, as how is it going to fit into the process of what you're doing with validating fire as an effective way to handle this?
I think in his original plan, he was recommending it as a standalone. And since we had discussions with him, he is, I think, going to put that more under where the direction we feel like we need to go as a city and put it under a fire prevention division instead of a standalone division. So I think he's revising it that way. I don't want to speak for him. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what he's doing.
Why did we pay this guy to do this report if we're telling him how to write it?
Right.
What?
I don't have an answer for that.
I wish somebody did.
So another, one last point there. So that was, I'm with Travis. When I saw that initial report, we'd already come up with an outcome on the report. And I'm used to, if we're going to do a consultant report, I'm thinking in terms of, let's have a consultant come in and tell us whether this is a good idea or not. We kind of bypassed that and we went to an outcome. So if we've already got an outcome determined by the city, what I'd like to see is him do, it would only be fair for CDS to have the same consultant write a report for CDS that parallels, and then we can compare because I think it's.
I think he met with CDS when before he did
no.
the first report. I don't know.
That's not what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. That's not what I'm saying. The outcome was already determined in the consultant report that we were going to take it from CDS, and the only thing he was asked to do was put together a plan to move it. So what I'd like to see is a parallel plan to that, so the CDS has an equal opportunity to present their case. Because what I'm afraid of is, one, if we move it from CDS to city, it's going to cost us a whole lot more money. That's at the bottom, because I think either department can do it, but I think it's going to cost us a lot more money. And if it's not broke, don't fix it. I'm not convinced it's broke, just based on what I've heard.
I just have,
Oh, okay. Jamie.
I just have a very simple question. Why the name change? Because I sit here and I wrote that out and I'm just like, why Fire Prevention Division? Because when I see how the other cities have done it from the KLC paperwork that you presented, everybody seemed to call it code enforcement. Why did we opt for fire prevention? To me, I'm like, we're handing out water hoses and smoke detectors.
Right.
Where's this going?
Some departments call it's under fire prevention on other cities, but for us, we already have a fire prevention department, so we're just putting it under that wheelhouse.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Terry?
I just have one more comment. In that consultant's report, I went through it all the way, and what surprised me more than anything else was that there was no human dimension to that report. So what I look for when a consultant comes through, he's got to take a look at the entire organization. You've got to talk to the people on the ground. And we've got to look at the fact is, what is the second and third order effect of a decision like this? How does it affect the employees and the morale? Does it fix a problem? Do we have a problem? Have we resourced it properly? Have we funded it? Do we have enough people? And a decision like this resonates not only from our contract with CDS, but it goes down to the employees, and then it goes out into the community, and then it has an adverse effect on the business side of the house as well. So I think we have to be careful and call it what it is. If we're looking at separating the nuisance from building permit, from demolition, we need to lay that puppy out very plainly and very clear and ensure that the contract that CDS signs with us fits the description of what their core mission is and their core competencies. Otherwise, we're just creating more departments. And that's the kind of thing I look at, and the impact of our employees. So that's where I'm at.
And this may or may not be the consensus with some, but I strongly feel like we should maybe revisit this thing as a whole with all stakeholders involved. Bringing those that we're potentially going to be bringing over from codes to the city, bringing them to the table because these are the folks that's going to be doing the job. We can sit and we can talk about, what we need to do, but like I said, being out there with them, stepping in a house that was literally coming down, I think we should bring them to the table because those are the folks that's going to be doing the hard work. So I just don't feel comfortable right now with moving this forward without hearing the plan and then also without the input from the folks that will be doing the work.
Can I make a,
There's a motion.
You have a motion.
We already have.
You have a motion, a
There's
second.
There's a motion, second on the floor, and that's what I want to clarify what the motion and second is. We are not voting to change anything as it sits right now today. The motion on the floor is to allow these two that have put 6 months' time into developing this plan to give them a little support that if they bring us something back in a month with the finance, with the operational structure, am I correct, Chief? All we're doing tonight is saying, take the next month. If you need longer than a month, we can move it to November. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
But all we're gonna do is vote to allow them, because I understand where they're at. They probably don't want to put in another month's worth of work on something that we're not even gonna give a fair shake to. Because I've stayed very quiet on this issue for several months. I've gotten phone calls from people over here, from some people over here, and some people on this table. And everybody heard the same thing from me. The water is muddy because too many people are giving their opinion, and we have not heard the facts. All I've asked anybody is to give these two. This guy runs it. She's going to finance it. They know more about how that's going to happen than any of us. And all I've asked the whole time out of anybody I've talked to is give these guys a fair shake. Come in with an open mind. That's what I'm continuing to ask. The noise, though, has got to stop, in my opinion. And I've got the mic, so I'm going to give my opinion. I don't care who likes who. I don't care who's mad at who. What I care about is what is best for the city of Hopkinsville. Because I had just about over 5,000 people put a check mark next to my name because they intended for me to do that. And I'm getting a little emotional on this because I'm getting tired of the noise.
It's tiring. It's exhausting.
It's exhausting to everybody in this room. It's exhausting to those employees over there. It's exhausting to these two. And it's exhausting to all of us. I want to hear what the plan is. I have deep-rooted opinions about code enforcement in Hopkinsville for the last 20 plus years. And I will be glad to give those opinions at some point. But just know, all we're asking is to let us move forward and take a look. Because the other thing you got to do is go out those doors and take a look and drive in some areas that a lot of us don't drive through. So with that, Councilmember Smiley.
A lot of what you said, I agree with, most all of it, Steve. And I was listening to everybody else, and I was going to make sure that I did comment on it. I've been on the code enforcement board. I've been involved. I've done construction, been involved with them over several years too. Some of the things that CDS does, I feel like over time has just been pushed over onto them over the years. And I think some of the stuff probably can be done more efficiently through some changes. But I'm like Steve, I want to hear the numbers, and that was going to be when I seen this on it and all, that was going to be what I wanted to hear, was that we come back, or they come back with a plan. And like Councilmember Meeks also said, and Councilmember Francis, make sure that we talk to our current employees at CDS to get their opinions on it. And you guys do that and bring that back to us with a formal proposal and with maybe some answers to some of these questions that all the council members have asked. So I'm fully in support of moving it, making the motion.
All right, well, the motion and second has been on the floor for.
One more question.
One more.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Why not? Let's throw in one
I
more.
apologize. You guys been working on this since February, you said, and here we are several months later. I was just wondering, when you brought this to the city council, city committee as a whole, wouldn't it have been better to bring everything today than to be bringing a piece and then telling us to bring another piece later on instead of being prepared, even though you know that this is months later, could anybody elaborate on that?
Well, I guess for me, it's we needed some direction. We need to be able to speak to the employees. We need to be able to know exactly how many employees that we're going to have. There are 10,000 things that goes on in CDS, and they will tell you.
Yes.
And so to be able to wrap our minds around exactly what piece that we could section off here that would make sense, that would benefit the city. Okay, how do we benefit the city? Because if we're not benefiting the city, then what's the point? And so I promise you, it took a long time to be able to make a decision on, okay, this is what we think is best. And that's just truth. That's just being honest. And when we came up with this, we wanted to make sure that this was the direction that the council wanted to go before we started meeting with employees, before we started putting hard numbers to it, so that we make sure that we're going the direction that we need to go. Does that make sense? Did I say that right?
Kinda.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm going to throw this out here. We've had a motion second on the floor a long time. We've had a lot of questions. I think most of the questions that are being asked at this point are going to be answered when we have another presentation. So if it's okay with everybody, can we go ahead and vote? All in favor of pushing it forward to the next council or committee of the whole meeting, say aye.
Aye.
The motion was to, the motion, I'm restating the motion. The motion is to allow Chief Futrell and Melissa Clayton to bring us the operational chart and the funding to the next meeting to show us how we're going to set this thing up.
But didn't Chuck ask to see CDS in parallel? Or am I wrong? Did I miss that? I thought I heard you say.
This is the motion we're voting on. This is the motion we are voting on. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Roll call.
Councilmember Lineberger,
Yes.
Councilmember Keel,
Yes.
Councilmember Bell,
No.
Councilmember Handy,
No.
Councilmember Francis.
No.
Councilmember Smiley,
Yes.
Councilmember Marsh,
Yes.
Councilmember Crabtree,
Yes.
Councilmember Craig,
Yes.
Councilmember Martin,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcox, and Councilmember Meek.
What do you got?
7.
All right, motion carries 7-5. Thank y'all very much for your presentation. A lot of
Thank
tension in the
you.
room. They've added to some of that. I apologize. That's not typical of my meetings. At this time, we are, I need a motion. We need to go into closed session for discussion of economic
Second.
development.
Second.
Hold on. I got to say
Gotta read it.
before the KRS 61.810.1G. Now, who's got the motion in the second?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Pick them. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's done. Staying in the room tonight is going to be Oh, okay, we're back from closed session. As always, no votes or any of that was done because it's closed session. So now I just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I've got Don Marsh and I got
Second.
Natasha Francis. You already got, I'm just calling your motion a second. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned. Have a great evening.
Hallelujah.
Got done, folks.